you that could make time to attend today's session, which is Intro to Cryptocurrency. Um, just as a little bit of background, Girls in Tech is a nonprofit organization. It's a global organization that has a footprint in about 60 countries around the world, has over 60,000 members around the world. And Girls in Tech South Africa, is one of their offices. I'm the current co-MD for Girls in Tech South Africa. And because I've been involved in the blockchain space for a little while now, I thought that it was really important for us to start getting South Africans to be more aware of what's happening in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Because throughout my working days, I see many people entering the space and starting new consultancy businesses or starting off as entrepreneurs in the space. And I think that it's an opportunity for us to explore as South Africans because there might be employment opportunities and things like that that's at the forefront of this cutting edge technology. One, so that we can learn, but two, so that as South Africans, we can also benefit, like the rest of the world is benefiting from being at the cutting edge of this technology. So, there were a few questions about, will the recording be available? Yes, the recording will be made available in a couple days or weeks, depending on when we get to doing what we need to do. The recording for the previous session, Introduction to Blockchain, is also going to be available on our YouTube channel. Um, these intro sessions are really to set the groundwork. So if you found the sessions valuable and you have more questions or would like another workshop that goes more in depth into certain concepts or terminology or knowledge or use cases, whatever it may be, please write to us. We will all go to our web page and fill out the contact us form and send us your questions. Um, so we are really here to make sure that as Girls in Tech South Africa, we're doing our little bit to educate South Africans about this tech. I'm going to hand over to Tanya Knowles. Tanya's bio's on the screen. She will introduce herself as well. But I know that you are in great hands with Tanya today. Tanya, thank you so much.
Very, very briefly, money is evolving all the time, and I'd never ever thought about this. Given much thought, I thought, 100 years ago they probably had a few coins and that. But if you think about it, money is evolving all the time, and probably for the last 15 years, I've had, we've been exposed to electronic money. Our parents very much had plastic credit cards while we were growing up, and I think most little girls wanted one because they thought that you just touched the credit card and it would buy you everything you wanted, or most kids, I should say. And really, we're moving into an era now where money is evolving into this concept of cryptocurrencies, which is really, really fascinating. So this is one of the slides that I had up last time, and I say that in that Bitcoin was really a gift, I think, a gift to the world, because in 2009, under the pseudonym of Satoshi Nakamoto, the Bitcoin white paper was issued. And for the first time, we really, really had a true cryptocurrency that came onto the market. And what made it so special is that up until then, we had no way to exchange value with each other over the internet without going through a trusted party. So without going through somebody like a bank. And in 2009, this concept of some computer code came along. And here you can see some of the differences between fiat money. I saw this was in the questions that people put forward, but the difference between Bitcoin and fiat money. So for the first time, we had this idea of a currency that was actually issued by a computer, by an algorithm on the internet, instead of issued by money. So I'll go through some of these things. The next thing is that it has limited supply. So Bitcoin only has 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be issued, whereas fiat money that's issued by a government is literally being printed all the time. There's huge controversy at the moment because in the US, I think they've printed about $22 trillion or something in the last 5 years. So there's this absolutely unlimited supply of money that can ever be issued by a government. In theory, government money just exists in a physical form, so it's bank notes and coins, whereas a digital or a cryptocurrency only exists in a digital form. It's issued by a computer, as I've touched on, versus being issued by a government. It's completely decentralized. So there's nobody actually one party controlling the Bitcoin network. It's a series of computers. They operating around the world. They're running this algorithm every single day to control who owns what Bitcoin. Whereas in fiat money, like we have with governments, rands, dollars, pounds, euros, those have been centrally controlled by a government who is responsible for managing that money supply. And the value is really through supply and demand of where people think that Bitcoin has value versus through market regulation. So right now, there's no control that anybody can really decide what the value of Bitcoin is. It's just purely through supply and demand. Whereas in a government context, there are levers that a government can pull to impact the value of the rand. For example, they could change interest rates. Is one of the levers that the SARB, our own central bank, uses to really try and contain the value of the rand versus other currencies. So a bit more about it. We've covered that it's a digital currency. The next very, very important thing is that it is kept secure through cryptography. So what that means is that these computers are competing to solve this algorithm all the time. And the more computers compete for that, the more difficult that algorithm becomes to solve. And you can only really add a blockchain. So that's the next word there. You can only really add a list of the transactions that have happened for that cryptocurrency into the blockchain by solving an algorithm, which is part of the cryptography. So maybe let me take one step back because I think that's a little bit confusing. So what happens right now is that Bitcoin has this network of computers around the world, like I've said, keeping a record of who owns what Bitcoins up to date. Every 10 minutes, those computers run this algorithm, and the first computer to solve it says, right, in the last 10 minutes, these are all the transactions that have happened on the Bitcoin blockchain. And it's called a blockchain because that block of transactions is chained to the previous one. So in my last talk, I said it's a bit like an Excel spreadsheet where you add in new tabs at the bottom. So every 10 minutes, a new tab is added, and it records that it chains those tabs together. So, and the first person to actually solve that block, or the first computer, I should say, to solve that block is rewarded and paid with Bitcoins for doing that. So people go and throw hundreds and thousands of computer powering technology to try and solve that block because they're going to earn Bitcoin by doing it. But because you're competing, the more people who compete, the more secure it becomes because it means that one computer can't corrupt the network versus another computer. So I hope that makes sense. It's completely decentralized. So no one controls it, no one manages it, no one owns it, anything like that, which is a very, very strange concept, but it's like the internet. No one actually controls the internet today. It just exists on a network of computers. This entire process is kept safe by keys. So very much like in the banking space, you have what we call an account number and a password. In the crypto space, we would say you have a wallet. That would be the account, and your keys would be your password. And this entire system is kept safe by those types of things. So the things that make this so secure or so beneficial, if I can put it that way, is first of all those transactions that get put into that block, they're irreversible. No one can ever, once a block has been added to the blockchain, it now becomes a permanent record in that blockchain, and nobody can ever go back and solve it. So people say, well, what happens if there's a mistake? What happens if somebody's transferred Bitcoins from one person to another person and they've done it in error? In the banking system, in theory, what you'd be able to do is go and reverse that transaction. In the blockchain space, you cannot do that. You would have to go and do what is called an equal and opposite and literally get the person who has put them in the wrong wallet, the wrong account, to transfer them back to you. The next thing is that it's pseudo-anonymous. So everybody can open an account on the blockchain, and literally all you see, and there are thousands and thousands of transactions going through this system every second, you literally see just that wallet address, so the account numbers, but you actually don't know who sits behind that address. So that's why when Bitcoin first started, it was really used for a lot of illicit purposes. So money laundering, drug deals, all sorts. Silk Road is one of the famous examples, because there were all these addresses that no one actually knew who is the account owner of that actual address. What's happened now, and we say it's pseudo-anonymous, and that's supposed to be one of the amazing things about a blockchain, is it's transparent. So like I've said, you can go in and see every single transaction happening right now. We say it's pseudo-anonymous because in theory, you can go into any one of those wallet addresses, and with enough technology and tracing and whatever, you can actually trace who sits behind that address. And they've caught a lot of people now through tracing that, because you cannot delete the historical record. So just diverging, there was a massive Bitcoin hack that happened probably 2016, 2017, I think it was. It was called Bitfinex, and there were millions of Bitcoin stolen. And they've never, in theory, been able to trace who actually stole those Bitcoins. But what's happened recently is, probably it was about 6 months ago, they arrested two very unassuming people in New York, and they traced that they were the ones that had actually done the Bitfinex hack. And because they couldn't delete the record of all those transactions, they went and they said, okay, these Bitcoins were stolen. They went from this wallet address to this wallet address to this wallet address. And eventually they said, okay, some of it was spent here at this company, and some of it was spent here to buy a bit of coffee from Starbucks. And what these people had actually done wrong is that they'd use their loyalty cards at Starbucks to, or I'm using Starbucks as an example, I don't know the actual retailer, but they'd use their loyalty card to accumulate points. And when they'd registered the loyalty card, they'd obviously had to fill in their names and email addresses and all of that. And they'd gone and done that in a few places. And they managed to track down who these people were that had actually hacked into the Bitfinex thing and stolen all these millions and millions of dollars worth of Bitcoins many, many years ago. And it was purely tracing them through buying a cup of coffee eventually that they'd started to spend some of that money, because the blockchain is so transparent, pseudo-anonymous, but very transparent. The other thing is it's fast and global. So right now it takes many, many days to send money around the world. In the Bitcoin case, if you buy some Bitcoin in America and you want to send them to somebody in India, literally within 10 minutes, you can move them across the world. It is very, very secure. So despite what people think that cryptocurrencies are not secure, the Bitcoin blockchain has to this day never been hacked. So the hacks that do happen are via exchanges, where people have left their money on an exchange, or an exchange has compromised people's details, or they don't have the proper security in place. But the Bitcoin blockchain to this day has actually never ever been hacked and is extremely secure. And then it's permissionless. So anybody can use it. You don't have to ask permission. You don't have to start featuring yourself to the same extent that you would for a bank account. So these are supposed to be some of the advantages for particularly people in developed markets or in emerging markets. Developing markets, sorry, I should say, or emerging markets, or people who don't have access to mainstream finance and bank accounts. This is supposed to be really a game changer for them, that they would have access to a financial system that they can't currently access today. So that's a little bit about that. So a little bit of a few more of the advantages. There's no fraud. There's no identity theft. If you keep your cryptocurrency secure, because it's pseudo-anonymous, you're not putting in name, phone number, email addresses, things like that. Immediate settlement we've touched on, access to everyone we've touched on, and then this concept of lower fees. So right now, banks, with all due respect to anybody who works for a bank, does make big spreads on transactions, particularly Forex transactions where people are wanting to move money around the world. And in theory, you can do this with Bitcoin in a much cheaper, lower fee manner than what a bank offers today. So I've been talking a lot about Bitcoin, but there are literally now thousands and thousands of different cryptocurrencies, and they're all used for various different things. It just depends on how you want to use them. And my next slide is the repeat of my previous session, but I always love these examples. So I'm going to dive into a little bit just to explain the types of use cases. So Bitcoin is very much, I know people say it's not a currency and it's not a store of value and it's not a unit of account, and we have these debates, but in very many ways you can, with all due respect to the nuances, you can compare Bitcoin to money that we use today. So that's probably one use case to use. The next one, for example, is Filecoin. So this is a coin where you can rent out unused space on your hard drive, and people then go and pay you in Filecoin, where this coin is programmed to measure how much hard drive space are you actually lending out, who is using it, how long did they use it for, things like that. And it's been programmed to record all that information. And then you get paid in Filecoin that you can then sell on a crypto exchange and buy something else with it. Let me go in the MakerDAO. Maker is a lending one where you can essentially lend out your cryptocurrencies to others. And again, it's programmed to let's say collect interest, or to charge the other person interest, or you be used as collateral for something. The basic attention token, that BAT one, the idea there is to try and do away with the likes of advertisers and publishers like Google and Facebook and let's say Times Media, and rather say to somebody, okay, if you are a journalist, why do you have to sell your article to Times Media, who go and make subscription fees off it? Why don't you publish your article directly on the internet, and anybody who wants to read it, they would go and access it by using BAT, the token, and then you go and receive that BAT in exchange for that, for the person, for every single person who clicked on your article to read it. And then the last one is called Link. That one is essentially to say to people, all right, on your watch, people are, recording their health data. What is your movement for the day, your heart rate, your etc. Why don't we build in a cryptocurrency where if you are willing to link your watch to a database, maybe there are pharmaceutical companies, doctors, medical insurers like Discovery who would be willing to pay for your data. And they would then go and, again, this coin is programmed to collect your data, and then you could go and sell it to those people and they will go and pay you with this coin. So these are just some of the examples of how people are using cryptocurrencies in various different ways. All right, so this is, I'm trying to think where this fits into my talk. I know Anushka sent me a brief of what I need to talk about, but this is to say, how do you actually store cryptocurrency? So maybe I've got it coming up a bit later, but if you wanted to buy cryptocurrencies, what you would need to do is obviously you need to find a fiat on-ramp to do that. So you need to take Rands and you need to find a way to convert those Rands into cryptocurrencies. The way to do that is, there are different ways. You could either do it peer-to-peer with somebody, but you have to really trust the other person that you're dealing with. And as a beginner, I probably don't recommend that. The other way to do it is you can go to a cryptocurrency exchange, and I'm going to cover some of the ones in South Africa a bit later on, and they are actually very, very simple and easy to use. What you do is you go on, you open an account with them like you would with a bank. It depends on how much cryptocurrency you want to buy, but if you're only going to do a little bit, they might just ask you for your name and an email address. If you want to buy a bit more, they start asking you maybe for an ID number. They need to FICA you. These cryptocurrencies now are essentially having to comply with law, which I think is great, where they need to FICA you in the South African context, depending on how much cryptocurrency you want to buy. Once you've bought that, there are different ways to store it. So unlike a bank where you are trusting the bank to look after your money, the whole idea with cryptocurrencies is that you're not supposed to be using a third party to look after your assets. You are supposed to look after your assets yourself. And with that power, can I put it that way, comes responsibility. So and this is why a lot of people have lost cryptocurrencies, because, for example, there's a famous story about a guy who went and stored his cryptocurrencies on a hard drive, and he didn't think they would ever be worth anything, some Bitcoin, and he threw the hard drive away by mistake, and it's in some dumpster in the UK, and he's trying to get it out because it's now worth billions of dollars. So what I'm saying is that you need to realize, if you're buying cryptocurrencies, the whole idea is that you are now responsible for your own asset. And if you lose your password or something, there's no one to go to reset that password. There's no call center to phone and say, hi, can you, I've lost it or whatever. If you die and you haven't given that password to somebody that you trust, those crypto assets are no longer accessible. So there are different wallets and different ways to store those crypto assets. And these are some of the examples. So you can download a wallet onto your desktop, where you essentially are downloading an app, if I can put it that way, onto your desktop, and you're storing them there. You can have one on your phone. You can have something like a cold wallet and a hot wallet. I've got something on the next slide about that. I will go into that. You can have an online web wallet, where an example of that would probably be MetaMask, where you can download an application where you're trusting another company to essentially keep it for you. You can have a paper wallet where you can download a QR code, and that QR code you print out on a piece of paper, and only that QR code can access that wallet ever again. And you print it once off and you put it in a safe and you keep it there. You can have a hardware wallet where you've got a memory stick, or you've got something like it's called a Ledger Nano wallet. It's literally, it looks like a memory stick. You buy them off the internet. I think you can buy them even on, I don't know if you can buy them on Takealot, but you can definitely buy them on Amazon, and it physically gets delivered to your house. You plug it into your computer, and you save the cryptocurrencies from your computer onto that hard drive. And then you need to keep that hard drive, hardware wallet, as you want to call it, you need to keep that safe. And then the last one is a Bitcoin wallet, which is essentially just for Bitcoins. So if I go back into that cold and hot wallets, the difference is between a cold wallet and a hot wallet is a cold wallet is generally portable. So that that Ledger Nano example that I gave you, that you're going to order a physical thing that gets delivered to your house that looks like a memory stick or a hard drive, that is used to essentially, what you're doing is you're taking your money off the internet. So it's called a cold wallet because you can't access it. People generally if you've got a large percentage of cryptocurrencies that you're not going to be buying a coffee every day with, or using it to trade a small amount, people generally store them off the internet. So I know this is not a great example, but I always try and I can never think of a brilliant example, but I almost say it's like a farmer, and he has some assets, some produce. He's got some eggs, and he wants to take them to a market every day and sell them. So that market, in this analogy, would be a crypto exchange. So you would take your money on and you would load it from your wallet onto a crypto exchange, and you would buy and sell with other people on that exchange in this market. But at night, it's not safe for you to be leaving, and I'm using night as an analogy, this market operates 24/7, but at night, it's not safe for you to leave your eggs at that market. You as a farmer now, every single night, whatever you haven't sold or whatever you're not using, you take back to your farm and you keep it safe while you're not selling them or trading with other people. It's very, very similar in a cryptocurrency type of environment. If you are buying stuff on an exchange, it is at that stage vulnerable to attacks, and you are basically, your exposure is the exposure of the exchange. So if that exchange gets hacked, then you essentially could lose some of your cryptocurrencies, if not all of it. That's what happened with Bitfinex many years ago. The more sophisticated exchanges, they've got insurance, they've got some great backups like It's two-factor authentication. They really put a huge amount of security into trying to keep their exchanges safe. But at the end of the day, it still potentially can get hacked. The theory is if you take your money off that exchange and store it somewhere safe, it's now off the internet, it's off the exchange, and you now are in theory going to keep your Bitcoin safe. So that's the difference between having a cold wallet or a cold account versus having a hot wallet or a hot account. You can use that one permanently to trade, do mobile transfers, etc. But here you can see some of the pros and cons of those two. So the five best crypto exchanges in South Africa, I'm not going to suggest any one. I'm not here to promote any of them, but we probably have about five well-known exchanges in South Africa. I would say the oldest one that's been around is called Luno. They have been operating for many, many years. They used to be called something else. It escapes me. If someone remembers, you can put it in the chat. It had the word bit in it. But they've been around for many years. They rebranded as Luno, I think probably in 2014. They're well known and many, many people use them, but they don't have many cryptocurrency trading pairs to buy. So they've got all the basic ones like Bitcoin and Ether and some of the entry ones, but they don't have access to all of them. The other one that a lot of people use is called Altcoin Trader. They've also been around for many, many years. They have a much bigger portfolio of what people can use, but they probably used a bit more by the day traders, I feel. Then there's one called VALR, VALR. It's probably one of the newer exchanges, but they have done extremely well. They seem to have a very nice user interface that a lot of people buy. They also have exposure to a big portfolio of cryptocurrencies. A lot of people say their customer service is very good, so they have some advantages from that perspective. The other one is Binance. So Binance is the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world. They opened offices here in South Africa. I was actually the first country manager for them, I think just over 2 years ago now. They've just recently announced that you can on-ramp fiat rands into crypto again. But they are very, very sophisticated exchange, and they built very much for an international market. So that has its advantages and disadvantages in many ways, but also very, very well known. And they say the 5 best crypto exchanges. I'm trying to think of a fifth one. The other one that you can use is actually Easy Equities or Easy. I think they're called Easy Crypto. So they are actually a company in South Africa that's operated in the traditional financial market space where you can buy and sell shares for many, many years. They have moved into the crypto space, and you can now buy and sell some cryptocurrencies. So those are probably the 5 best and most well-known crypto exchanges in South Africa. All right, so everyone wants to know, how can you make money? And my first statement is that there is no such thing as easy money in this space, in any space, actually. I first bought my first Bitcoin, I think in 2015, 2016. Even Ether, I think at one stage when I got into the space, Ether was trading at about $70. At the moment, I think it's about $1,600, $1,800. At some stage, it went to $4,000. And everybody says to me, gosh, you must be rich if you bought so long ago. But I always tell everyone the same story. So the first time I bought, let's say, for example, I spent 1,000 Rand. And I bought some Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin was at about $3,000. Today, it's probably 22, 23. It was $300. Sorry, it was $300. And then at the moment, it's probably about $22,000. I try not to look all the time because it sometimes depresses me. So I got it at about $300, I think, at the time. And but I only spent 1,000 Rand. And then the price all of a sudden went to $3,000. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I need to buy more. So then I went and spent 5,000 Rand. And I bought 5,000. And then all of a sudden it went to $8,000. And I was like, oh, this is like unbelievable. So then I went and bought more. And then in 2017, it went to $20,000. And I took my entire Christmas bonus and I was like, I told my husband, this thing is amazing. We're going to get rich. And I went and spent my whole Christmas bonus. And I went and I think bought as many Bitcoin as I could with 20,000. It was $20,000 at the time, I think the peak was. And I went and spent all the money on the worst day, obviously, that I could have bought. I bought it. And it then went and crashed back down to $4,000. And now it's at $22,000. So that was 4 years ago, and I literally have not. I've made 10% in 4 years. So if I put my money in a bank, I would have done better than what I've done at the moment. I have made some money. I'm being facetious, but the point is that as it starts to grow, you get so excited that you go and put more and more money in each time. And then all of a sudden it crashes and it wipes out all the money that you did make when you invested a small amount at a lower price. So I'm just saying, please don't think it's a get rich quick scheme, because it's really, really not. And it's now become very, very competitive. Yeah, I've given 10 examples of what people can do to make money with cryptocurrencies, but it really does take a lot of time, a lot of effort. Trying to time the market is near impossible. Yes, it went up to $60,000 earlier. I think it was this year. Yes, at the time I was like, "Ooh, I've made my money back." As I sit here today, I'm still almost back to square one. So probably if you want to get into the space, what I always say is, number one, don't invest any money that you can afford to lose. It is extremely volatile and you just don't know what's going to happen. Number two is, it's probably best to buy a little bit all the time. So to be transparent, I buy a little bit of Bitcoin once a week. I have a debit order. VALR offers a service where you can literally have a debit order going off your bank account automatically, and they buy a small amount of cryptocurrency every week for you. And then what you find is, as the price is going up and down, it's very much like Rand cost averaging, if you know what that is in financial services. So if you want to buy dollars, instead of buying them all on one day, you slowly spread out that purchase over a series of a few weeks or months. I think that's the way potentially to buy cryptocurrencies, if you believe that in the long term they are going to go up and they are going to become valuable. It's impossible to try and time the market and buy them all at once. It might just be an idea to buy a few every single day, or every single week or month, or whatever you decide. So that's my advice in this space. So there are literally people who have lost their life savings in this space. So these are some safety tips that particularly relate to your wallet. But there are many, many more I'll get into. So the one thing is, it says don't put all your eggs in one basket. So don't keep all your cryptocurrencies in one space. It's very much, I don't know what people's opinion is, but like I, for example, have 2 bank accounts with 2 different banks. And the reason I do that is that if FNB, touch wood, was to go down for a day and I couldn't get access to it, I know recently one of the banks was down for about 3 or 4 days, then at least I know I'm banking with another bank that I will still have access to my money, and I still have another credit card that I can use in a case of an emergency. So same thing here. Don't put all your eggs in one basket by keeping all your assets in one place. Be careful with your mobile device. If somebody does get hold of your device, what can they actually do with it? Always back up your wallet. So if you have a key, so key is your password, you need to back up that key somewhere. And please make sure that you don't lose it. So don't go and store it somewhere where someone can find a copy of it. But you need to perhaps store it somewhere where you think it's 100% safe, and then maybe print out a copy and put it somewhere where you know is very, very safe. But have it in 2 places that if your house burns down, you don't lose it, for example. Beware of phishing scams. So guys, even the people who have been in this space for like literally 10 years fall foul to phishing scams all the time. So they do it every day. So they think they know what they're doing. And literally, just like internet banking, scammers go in, they will duplicate a website. you think you're logging into the website of the exchange or the wallet you always use, or you get an email from the wallet that you always use that looks authentic, that looks real, or you get an SMS. I keep getting SMSs saying, this is Luno, your wallet is potentially compromised, please click here to secure it now. Or you get an email, or you log into websites and you think you're in the right website, but it turns out you're actually in a scammer's website. So you have to be extremely careful, particularly in this space around, around phishing scams and being in the correct websites and all of that. They double check their address. Number 6, a friend of mine the other day thought that she was logging into MetaMask. It looked 100% authentic. It was she says it was an exact mirror image of the MetaMask website. When she looked more close, when she looked the next day, her crypto was gone. She went and traced her steps and worked out that she had actually been in a scam website. So yeah, I'm just conscious of the time, and I've still got a few slides to get through, but I think you get in the gist of what I'm saying in terms of trying to keep safe. The next thing I want to say is there are so many scams, and the point of this space, and probably my biggest one, is the point of this space is that you are supposed to do stuff yourself. You're not supposed to give your money to somebody else to manage for you. So when somebody comes along and says, I've got an amazing scheme and give me your Bitcoin or deposit some money here, and I know somebody who's got an algorithm that is making a 10% return a month on Bitcoin or on Ether or a new cryptocurrency that you've never heard of. And if you refer my favorite is if you refer another 2 people, you can also earn even more from that. There are so many like this. And the point is if anybody is offering you a return on your money that you are not managing yourself, or even if you are managing yourself and it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. There are these pump and dump schemes. There are people on Twitter and they say, guys, there's this amazing cryptocurrency coming along. I highly recommend it. Everybody should buy it. It's going to change the world. They've already got 20,000 users using it, and it's backed by the following, it's backed by Bill Gates or some big names. And then everybody goes out and buys it. What these guys do is they convince everybody to buy it. The price goes up, and as soon as the price goes up, they go and sell it, and they crash that coin. And now everybody who was innocently buying it in the hope of making money has now lost their money because the whole coin has crashed. So anything like that, please be careful of. There's all the old school scams. There's malware on your computer where you click on a link. As I say, you think you're going somewhere. So please just avoid all of these things. So here's some characteristics of some of the scams and red flags to watch out for. You'll get a notice from SARS, that they now, I don't know, you can pay, well, I don't know if you'd believe it, but maybe some people will, that you can pay your taxes now with crypto or something. But it's like a government official asking you for payments in cryptocurrencies. Your approach to invest cryptocurrencies, because they make it seem like it's this amazing secret opportunity. My favorite one is that they always make out that like they're anti-government and anti, the regulators have tried to shut them down, but they out to prove everybody wrong and they can make money. And then the other big one is advertisements on social media that want you to pay in cryptocurrencies. Be careful of that, and also be careful of influencers. So what I mean is, Paris Hilton's got into trouble for promoting some cryptocurrencies. There are some very, very big name celebrities that have been out there promoting cryptocurrencies that have actually just collapsed, and some of them have turned out to be pure scams. So just be careful. So some warning signs. If it sounds too good to be true, I promise you it is. They make you think it's urgent. They're running like a one-time offer that you have to do it now, because they're only running this for the next week, and you must put your money in now. And they post these fraudulent ads on social media, as I say, and you get what a lot of them do is they convince you to move your cryptocurrencies into another wallet. and you can they say move your money here and then we'll look after it and make sure it's safe for you, or give us rands and we'll buy cryptocurrencies from you. They make it sound like it's sort of a stokvel in South Africa. Everyone in your church must please put money together, and then they'll go and buy Bitcoin for you, and then they go and run off with the money. So these are some things. So I think there are a number of legitimate ones that are out there, but you've just got to do your research. People will launch a website and they'll say, this is an amazing cryptocurrency, this is what it's going to do, come and invest in it. And yes, there are some amazing projects out there, but you've got to do your research. That people go to the extent of even copying LinkedIn profiles and saying, okay, this is the founders and the CEO and the head of security and the head of IT. You go and Google those things. Those people don't even exist. They've taken stock photography as profile pictures. And you go and look and they say they've got 100,000 users. You actually log into the platform and you might discover that there's nobody even in there. So I think you get my drift around just being very careful in this space. So I see we have 10 minutes left for questions. So I did want to leave some time to take those. So yeah, thanks very much. Let's discuss what anyone wants to put forward.
Okay, thanks so much, Tanya. That was insightful, even though I've been around the space for a while. It's always a good reminder to hear what this is, how to secure it, where to get it, and then some tips about some of the actual utility that some people are providing. It's not just a coin, but here's a Filecoin, which actually has a utility, or Maker that actually has a loans utility. So it's really nice to hear. So if anyone has questions, you're welcome to put up your hand and ask your question, or to write your question in the chat. I just want to find the list of questions quickly, because I know some of you emailed us your questions or sent your questions in your sign up form. So are there
I
any
see there's
questions here?
there's one hand raised, Anushka, so let's take that. Oh, they put their hand down maybe. Oh no, that's me putting my hand up.
Sorry, that was me. It's Emily speaking. Hi.
Hi, Emily.
So thank you very much for explaining everything today. This is my first crypto session ever. I'm one of those people that's always been afraid or a bit hesitant to fall into the craze, because it all seems like scams. People go crazy and it feels like I'm being rushed into something. And this is just training session. So you covered people just being a bit wary about the websites that we go on and actually, trading ourselves. But what about for those of us who are learning and people are offering training packages so that you can educate yourself on it? Because the approach they take also sounds a bit like a scam. So I'm not sure how to look out for those kind of scams. So what would you suggest there?
What, I haven't actually looked. So I haven't looked at. I think where you're getting at is they say, okay, come on a blockchain course or a cryptocurrency course, and then pay us in Bitcoin for that course. Is that right?
I'm not sure what the end game is, because I never actually go for it, because it sounds so dodgy. So I don't know, but I've been scammed before with these Ponzi schemes where people approach me, and people that I trust who believe in the organization. And then, if I have some spare money, I'll give it a shot. And then I've been scammed twice. So I'm a little bit shy with regards to these training sessions that they are pitching, especially when it comes to new disruptive technologies.
Yeah. So from what you're saying, I would probably avoid them, and do like proper research. Google is your friend. So I'll speak bluntly about it. There was a scheme, a Ponzi scheme called MTI, Mirror Trading International. They were operating now probably just over 2 years ago, and they had developed a system like you're saying, where they'd say to people that they had this amazing computer bot that would trade Bitcoin and was earning basically earning 1% a day trading Bitcoin. So if you work that out, that's like 350% a year. Considering a bank's willing to give you 8%, like it sounded unbelievable. And like you say, they would say to people, come to our meetings, listen to how it works. And they did these presentations that, no, you send your sign up, send your Bitcoin to us. This is how you do it. And then we trade it. And then you get this, you can log into the platform every day and see how much your Bitcoin has grown and all sorts. And I mean, from the outside, there were a lot of people calling it a scam. And I called it a scam in a public forum like this. And the next day I got a letter from their lawyers saying to me that if I ever put them down ever again in public, they will take legal action against me. And I had to then keep quiet because this had happened. But within 4 months, the CEO disappeared with 2.5 billion rands worth of Bitcoin. Disappeared to Brazil. They said that there were all sorts of rumors. The people who were also involved, the management team, pinned it on him and said, no, they didn't know that this was going on and he'd run away with all the Bitcoin. Subsequently, he's actually been arrested in Brazil by Interpol and he's currently in jail and there's a whole investigation going on. But I think the point of what I'm trying to say is if I would be very, very skeptical of these things. And I'd be very, very skeptical around anything where they promote you getting involved and giving them money to invest and you no longer have control of your cryptocurrencies. I think that is one of the key things is as soon as you no longer are in control and you've given them to somebody else, that's where I get concerned. And then if you are able to buy that cryptocurrency on a legitimate exchange like VALR, Luno, Binance, etc., you're probably a little bit better off investing in that versus giving your money to somebody privately and then they send you some coins and that. That's not to say that the ones on Binance and Luno and all of that are 100% guaranteed that they're legit. But those exchanges have done some due diligence on those projects to make sure that the people running them actually do exist, and it's not necessarily a scam. So I hope that helps a bit.
100%. Thanks a lot, Tanya.
Are there any more hands, Tanya?
No, I don't think so. I don't see any right now.
Okay, then let's race through these. What's the tax implications from SA tax law perspective?
Yeah, so SARS has been very, very clear and I think quite clever in some ways. They treat him, because this is a very, very complicated space to manage. So if you think about it, if I get paid in Bitcoin, how do I pay PAYE? How is that calculated? If you are buying a cup of coffee with Bitcoin, how is VAT payable? All these sort of questions. So what SARS has done is they've said we will treat Bitcoin as very similar to a security, a share. So if you are buying and selling and you're trading all the time, let me take one step back. They've treated cryptocurrencies in the same way as they've treated any other income. So if you are making a profit off what you buy and sell, you have to pay tax on it. If you hold those cryptocurrencies for more than 3 years, so let's say you buy on today and you sell it in 5 years' time, very much like shares or securities, you would have to pay capital gains tax on that profit. So it's up to you to monitor what you're buying and selling. It's very, very difficult, how much profit you've made. But they are now getting to a point where they're saying to those 5 crypto exchanges that I mentioned, please, can you let us know who your clients are, what their assets are, how many cryptocurrencies they bought, what price did they buy at, how much did they sell at, and they're making sure that when people fill in their tax returns, they're declaring that income, and you pay income tax on it, or if you've kept it for a long time, you're paying capital gains tax on it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. How are we supposed to use cryptocurrencies?
So it depends on your strategy. You know, right now, you can buy them to buy a cup of coffee in a lot of places. There's a few ways to do it like that in South Africa. If you want to send some money across the world and do it in a very cheap, simple way to somebody else, you could, in theory, buy Bitcoin, send them the Bitcoin. They could sell it on the other side very, very quickly and get their money out. You can, some other examples, you can just buy it and keep it if you want to as an investment. If you believe that it is going to go up, much like you would buy a share on the stock exchange right now, you could do that. So it just depends on what you want to actually use it for at the moment, and then there's various use cases. A lot of the exchanges. So let me quickly give you a very, very good example where a lot of this started, or where Bitcoin started to get adopted. I think I might have covered this on the last talk, and forgive me if you've heard it before. One of the biggest exchanges out there is called Kraken or Kraken. I don't know how you want to pronounce it. And they actually started because currently in the gaming world, if you play games all day, you can accumulate assets. So you can accumulate some fancy gun or some coins or whatever in Fortnite. I don't know if your kids play Fortnite. I don't really know what it is. But you can accumulate assets or loot in those types of games. So as a kid sitting across the world in China, if you're playing this game and you've got all these assets, you might find that there's another kid in America who actually wants whatever you've accumulated, but they don't have the time to sit and play the game, and they want to take a shortcut, and they are actually willing to pay you for that. But now, to pay you, they are now going to need your bank account. They're going to have to get approval from their bank, potentially to do a Forex transaction. The money's going to take 5 days to move from America to China. You're going to pay Forex fees to convert it from dollars to yuan. So what happened in many, many instances is someone said, okay, I'll tell you what, please send me the gun or the coins or whatever they've accumulated, and I will pay you in Bitcoin, and you will have the money in your Bitcoin wallet in 10 minutes. And that's how some of these small exchanges, they just started running a mechanism for gamers to exchange assets around the world. But they needed a money equivalent to settle the transaction. So they had an asset. It was a gun, a virtual gun in a game, and they needed money. And fiat was just too complex, too expensive, bogged down with regulation, FICA, whatever. And they said, let's use Bitcoin instead. And they created a little exchange where they started to bring gamers together. And that's how Kraken started. And today it's one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Tanya, what opportunities are there in South Africa for beginner cryptocurrency developers, if any? What program languages are preferred? And is there space for database analysts?
Yes. So yes, and yes to all those questions. So if you go on to any of the crypto exchanges websites that I've mentioned, if you have developer skills, I promise you, you are like worth millions. Okay, well, not millions. Don't get too excited. But what I'm saying is that I think there are probably, Anushka, you will know, there are thousands of blockchain and crypto startups around the world. And if you go into their websites and you go to the career section, 99% of them have 10 jobs advertised for developers. They are all desperate. There is such a skills shortage in that space that you will literally find many jobs, including those 5 exchanges that I've mentioned in South Africa. They all have careers pages, and they are all looking for developers, I can tell you right now. The skills that you need, it's probably, there's Python that's used. There's some, basic coding from an Ethereum perspective that you can get. Initially, you might know a few more. I'm not a developer, so I'm just know some of the buzzwords. But it's all those types of skills that if you've got those, you're definitely A for a way in terms of getting a job.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that about jobs and people wanting to know, I mean, the next question is also about how do you get, what skills do you need to get into the space? And just from my experience now, being involved in the Cardano community as an example, but I'm assuming that the Ethereum community has the same thing, Bitcoin community probably has the same, and all these other new cryptocurrency communities that are popping up all over the show, probably have the same thing. But basically, you can get involved in the community and use your existing skills to fulfill a role that you carve out for yourself in this community. And then you can, request to be paid from a treasury that this community manages for the skills that you bring. So it's not just technical skills that are needed in this space. They need marketing people, they need people that know how to communicate, they need community managers. So there's like loads of skills that are needed within this space because it's so new. You also need administration skills, business skills. So whatever skill you have, if you get involved in certain communities, um, you will be able to carve out work for yourself basically and write your own job spec and land a job, or at least get paid in some kind of crypto. I think the trick is being able to convert that crypto to fiat so that you can actually live your day-to-day life. But I think there are loads and loads of opportunities out there. We're going to end there with the Q&A. I do want to say, Tanya, thanks so much for taking out time, not just to present here today, but also to prepare for this presentation and then to share your years of knowledge with us. It's always fascinating to learn new things and to know that we're exposing people to new concepts that could potentially lead to something. So for the people and the call, what I do want to say is where we are building up to in this masterclass series is to get you familiar with the concepts of blockchain, cryptocurrency, smart contracts, and NFTs. And then we'll be running an NFT workshop to teach you how to create your own NFT collections, right? Because that's where people are making money these days. They're creating the NFT collections, they're using their marketing skills, selling their NFT thingies, and we're trying to get you to that point to where you can understand how this works, and then maybe you can come up with your own ideas, business models, and become an entrepreneur in this space. So please join us for our next session in 2 weeks time. Tanya, thank you so much. And
Thanks,
all of
everyone. It's
you
been great. Thank you.